Pleasure to be with you, Nick.
So, first of all, congratulations are in order. You were reelected to another 2-year term as State Republican Party chairman. What do you attribute to your reelection?
Well, I always had the support of the base of the party and of the chairs. We worked very hard together. We had a lot of success in the 2009 elections right after I was elected the first time. We continued to have success in the 2010 elections with respect to winning more congressional seats from the Democrats than any other state. We won 6, and of course we just had another great election in the 9th congressional district, which was 3-1 Democratic.
Bob
Turner over Dave Weprin, which really had national ramifications. It was a very powerful statement, basically, that in a district like that, in the end, it was the Reagan Democrats that made the difference. They went with the president last time. Now they've come to our side. Just talked to Bob Turner yesterday. They're going to stay with us. That means real trouble for the president. Like Jim Carville said, the White House should panic. Fire someone. No, fire everyone. That's what Jim Carville said. Of course, Clinton's political guru for his presidential elections. The White House really has a problem, and the congressional New York has really played a role now in national politics. And that's what New York should play a role. I mean, New York is that kind of a state. We do play on the national stage, and I think the party is very proud of that.
Sure. Well, let's talk a little bit about the national stage. You've got the Republican candidates for president now. They've been debating several times. And you've got some very stark differences that are emerging between the two main rivals right now for the presidency, Rick Perry and Mitt Romney. Rick Perry seen as somewhat more conservative. If he's at the top of the Republican ticket, will that hurt turnout for Republicans in that it will maybe possibly drive Democrats to come out and vote for Barack Obama?
Well, there are some Republicans who are now accusing Rick Perry of being too moderate in some of his stands and some of the things that he did as governor. But the fact is that he successfully governed Texas for 10 years, the second largest state in the union, and no income tax, he reformed the tort laws, and Texas has been gaining jobs like no other state in the union. So that gives him a very powerful record to run on. Of course, Mitt Romney also, as governor of Massachusetts, was very successful. As a person who saved the Salt Lake Winter Olympics, he was very successful. And he has, as a very successful businessman in the venture capital area, he knows how to grow businesses, what are going to make them work, and he's run for president before. His father, of course, ran for president. He understands what the presidency is about. So we have two very good candidates to select from.
What about Chris Christie?
Chris Christie, he has said that he is not ready to run. I don't think he's going to run. When I sat down with him some time ago with a small group, he made that absolutely clear that he was not going to run because he didn't feel ready.
He keeps
there are many people who are pushing.
Backers.
And Rick Perry's going from the Texas stage to the national stage and all the issues that are involved with that, and there are going to be hiccups along the way. That, I think, when Chris Christie looks at that, he says, oh, now I am right. I'm not ready. A lot of things I need to do in New Jersey. I'm focusing on New Jersey, and to move from New Jersey to the national stage after the short time that I've been governor and with what I have left to do in New Jersey, I'm not ready to do that. And I think that's where he's going to stay.
But isn't it telling, though, of how unsettled the race is right now, that you've got some major party donors, some major New York party donors, including Ken Langone. There was a story in the New York Times today that you've got these guys who are pushing Governor Christie into the race. Doesn't that just show how unsettled the race is? And shouldn't these guys be getting behind one of the candidates who has declared already?
This race has a long way to go, a number of debates that are still to go. They have been pushing him for some period of time. So this is, well, maybe new news with respect to New York Times. They feel this is their candidate, and it's perfect. They're right to push it. But I was at an event with Governor Romney last night. It was a huge event, very successful event. A week before, events with Governor Perry, and I have to say, very successful events. We have two very good candidates there. Chris Christie won again, and I'm sure he would have support too. He's made it clear that he does not feel that he's ready to go at this point.
Well, let's talk about President Obama now. He's recently announced his support for what would essentially be a tax on the mega rich. He's calling it the Buffett rule. Governor Cuomo released a statement saying that while he does not support tax increases on the state level, he supports tax increases on the federal level. Can the governor have it both ways, essentially?
Well, I'm not going to comment on his rationale for taking different positions, but I can see the point that he is making with respect to certainly his stand with respect to the state taxes. He can't raise taxes here in New York. He adopted that position, which is basically a Republican position, after our 2009 elections, and we had great success in the local elections with very fiscally conservative Republicans, winning in 2-1 Democratic Westchester and winning in Nassau County, beating Tom Suozzi.
Both were upset elections, certainly.
Right, and this state now is basically fiscally conservative. Now, the differences are going to be this way. There's some surplus over what was projected in the budget. Leader Skelos, the Republican leader in the Senate, has made clear if there's a surplus, let's use it to lower taxes. That's a challenge to Governor Cuomo. Is he going to, this state is the highest tax state in the United States. We need lower taxes. It's a challenge to Governor Cuomo. We should be lowering taxes, not just putting a cap on them.
Well, on that surplus, though, there's some debate about whether that's just based on the timing of certain tax payments, and I think the governor's actually not necessarily ruled out a tax decrease, but has said that, this is money that is kind of an illusion right now that is extra money.
The fact is that we have a very archaic tax system here that needs to be reformed. We do not index our tax brackets to inflation. And therefore, as we've had some inflation, about 2.5%, as people go up into higher brackets without having more value for their money, they in fact have to pay higher taxes. So even without raising percentages, people here in New York are automatically taxed at higher rates as there are inflationary increases in their income. We need to reform our system, index our brackets to inflation, and it really gets worse than that if you examine the full tax system. It needs to be reformed, but it does produce these surpluses automatically.
And I know, you've said about Governor Cuomo that he's adopted many Republican positions, of course, save for same-sex marriage, which he supported, but the property tax cap, no new taxes in the budget, and having the on-time budget. Does that make it, and given his popularity, does it make it harder to field a candidate against him in 2014?
We'll have to wait and see what happens in 2014. He does have very high poll ratings now, but there's another side to that. That means he's not using his political capital to get what needs to be done here in New York State. In other states where we have a Republican governor and Republican legislatures, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, they are basically restructuring their economic systems to make them much more efficient, much more attractive to job creation than New York. And we are dead last as far as being business friendly. We are the highest tax state still in the United States.
Isn't that something he's trying to reverse, that image he's trying to reverse?
And to do this, the governor needs to spend his political capital, which he has with the high polls, to have some real reform in this state that will make us competitive. We're becoming less competitive just by standing still with these other states which have Republican governors and Republican legislatures that are reforming their economic systems to have better job creation, to attract jobs to their state. So we're still falling behind here just by standing still in New York State.
Just another poll, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, there was a Siena College poll that came out today, actually, that shows Senator Gillibrand below 50%. I believe it was at 46%. Is she seen as a vulnerable potential hiccup for the party next year? If
you take a look at what happened in the 9th Congressional District and the voting populations of New York City, of that inner suburb that went Republican, I talked to Bob Turner yesterday, they're going to stay Republican. They are voting against Obama's economic programs, and unless this state has economic development and changes the way it is, they're going to vote both federally against the president, but also they're going to vote for the Republican candidate here for the Senate. and we can make a very good run against Kirsten Gillibrand.
Any candidates out there right now who are looking? I mean, I know George Maragos has declared his candidacy. Anybody else who might make a
I don't want to put names out now, but there's a lot of interest in running for against Kirsten Gillibrand, and I think the prospects here are becoming clear that we have very good prospects, even in this very blue state.
I want to get back to Bob Turner, actually. We mentioned a little bit about the success of the New York Nine. There's the likelihood that the New York Nine could actually be eliminated during the next round of redistricting. Does Bob Turner have a chance against, say, somebody like Joe Crowley, who is very popular out in the borough of Queens?
Well, I don't know if Joe Crowley is popular or not. Certainly, people voted against Joe Crowley's choice for a candidate. They were up and they voted for Bob Turner, who is just an excellent candidate. We're going to fight to hold on to every district that we have. We now have 8 of them. We had 2 years ago at this time. We now have 8 congressional districts, and there are 3 to 5 more that we could pick up in 2012. But first of all, these local elections that are coming up this November 8 are very important. This is where the Republican tide really started 2 years ago. We need to hold on to the county execs that we have. We have 13 of the 17 large counties are now the positions of the county exec is held by a Republican. There are several that we can add to that. We need to win the legislature in Westchester, same legislature in Erie County to support our county execs there in their fiscally conservative programs. There's a lot of hard work to do between now and November 2nd, and then we'll look at 2012.
Mark Grisanti has talked about, or hasn't ruled out, leaving the Republican Party. He was instrumental in the party taking the state Senate. Does that hurt his support in the local party if he, hasn't ruled out switching back to the Democratic Party?
Well, I don't know where that is. I have to say that win, though, was a fantastic win in that district in Erie County. It was a great win, and he's been on the Republican side, and I'm not going to speculate beyond that.
Fair enough. In terms of redistricting, how involved is the state party getting in that kind of very politically tricky issue?
It is politically tricky, but especially with respect to congressional redistricting, there we are going to be involved in working with our present 8 members of Congress, and also looking toward districts that we think we should be able to win in, to make sure that they are districted in a fair way, that we've got a good, fair shot at not holding on to what we have, but also winning those additional districts.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. State Party Chairman Ed Cox, thanks for joining us.
Nick, pleasure to be with you.